Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Moms on a Mission. Thanks so much for being here. We are live on Rumble, YouTube, and X American News. Hop on there and join us and share this episode with friends. We'd be so honored. Like, subscribe. Today's guest is absolutely going to blow your mind with the information she shares. I also share a few clips, and our guest is Maria Zeee from zeemedia.com. She's one of the most banned independent journalists in the entire country of Australia. She also has been debanked. So when she speaks about some of these subjects that we talk about today, she's speaking from personal experience and she shares a lot of data, a lot of information that I think you're going to find incredibly enlightening. And so make sure to share this episode. I think that folks will really be appreciative because the mainstream media doesn't always tell us the truth, and that's one thing I like about Maria. So without further ado, please welcome to the Moms on a Mission podcast, the one and only Maria Zeee. Maria Zeee, welcome back to the Moms on a Mission podcast. I am so excited to talk about our a little bit controversial subject today, but welcome and thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be back.
So you are known as Zeee Media for speaking the truth, no matter what the cost. And that's what I love about you and any American or anybody who will do that, because I think sometimes folks, they get on the bandwagon of Republican, Democrat, these labels. And when a Republican president-elect such as Donald Trump nominates certain people or aligns with certain people, we just go along with it because it's President-elect Trump. And that's one thing I really like about you is that, you don't just follow a name or a label, you follow the truth. And that's what zeemedia.com is known for. And so today I would love to talk about Elon Musk. You have been exposing some things that I think most people would be surprised to hear today. I know I've had conversations with folks about some things that he's done. Like back in 2017, he's wearing a jacket with white lettering that says the New World Order. And I am like, what's up with that? This man knows all about the New World Order. Why has he got President Trump, elect Trump's ear like this? And so this is nothing new, but man, everybody just adores him because he did purchase X. He has said that he is for freedom of speech. And we've seen him look at a lot of Twitter, just some scenarios where the government was involved and asking them to push a certain narrative or to withhold a certain narrative. But some new things have come out that I'd love for you to expose and to educate our listeners today, because we're of course not hearing this on mainstream media. And again, I think it's very important to know the truth. The Bible says you'll know the truth and the truth will set you free. They're talking about Jesus there, but it's also important to know the truth as to what's happening because we're in a spiritual war. So introduce our listeners to some of this information that you have been talking about regarding Elon Musk.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you said something key there. You'll never hear it in the mainstream media, but unfortunately, we're not hearing it in conservative media either, Miriam. And I think that that's a real problem. My position, my belief system is that I will support good people or support people when they do good things. That would even include, unpopular people, by the way. I would support them if they did a good thing. I would give credit where credit is due. And I'll also give criticism where criticism is due of good or bad people. It doesn't really matter. The tribalistic loyalism that people have to either one party or another has always been problematic for me because of the fact that we can be blinded by that loyalty that to things that may result in bad outcomes for us later on. And that is certainly what I'm seeing when it comes to the blind support of figures like Musk, who are doing some very questionable things, just because he sort of, helped Donald Trump win. And by the way, I want to give him credit for that. I did give him credit for that at the time. I think that Donald Trump being president is infinitely better than Kamala Harris. But I have some serious concerns and about some double standards that I'm seeing. And most recently, people would know that there was a huge debate around H-1B, and this is where all of this sort of started. Elon Musk was responded to figures like Laura Loomer by suspending these blue check marks. And what people don't understand, and Elon Musk has said, well, I don't have to pay people to criticize me, and that's true, by the way, he doesn't. But that's not what's happening here. What happens when someone gets their blue check mark taken away is that it actually limits their ability to reach their audience. It limits their ability to go live on the platform, post more than a certain character limit. And then what happens is once that blue check mark is restored, which did happen in the case of Laura Loomer and a more recent case, which we'll talk about today, another arbitrary punishment of one of Elon's critics. What happens is even though that blue check mark is restored, that person's reach is throttled. So they are permanently punished in the naughty box of X and not able to reach their audience, which, by the way, their audience wants to hear from them. Laura Loomer, for example, I think she has over 1 million people on X who want to hear from her. I never see her posts anymore. And by the way, I don't agree with everything Laura Loomer says. I don't, I'm not a sycophant, but I'm looking because I'm follow her account because I'm interested in some of the things that she says. I never see her posts anymore, Miriam. That's problematic because my choice has been taken away from me.
Yeah. And you say something very, very profound here. And this is what our country was founded on. So dissidence was acceptable. It not only was acceptable, but it was encouraged. When you think about how our Constitution was formed, was through arguing. They locked themselves in a heated room for days until they came out with this Constitution. And now it's like if you do not align with the current narrative, then you are labeled all these names like racist or you're being negative. Talk to us about that, the word negative that Elon used.
Well, this came after, by the way, he said that he told people to F themselves in the face who were disagreeing with him, promised to go to war with them. Right? This was the language that he used. Think about this person who has promised a free speech platform, which, by the way, is false marketing through and through, because freedom of speech but not freedom of reach actually equals censorship, not free speech. Right? The very definition of you can speak but no one will hear you is called censorship. So we can stop calling it a free speech app, right? That's first and foremost. It's false marketing. And I actually foresee potentially, Miriam, lawsuits in the future around this very issue. In fact, people have already started. So there's that aspect. But following this, promise to give people a voice and promise to, free speech is the bedrock of democracy. America's not a democracy, by the way. It's a constitutional republic, but that's another issue. The free speech is the bedrock of democracy. And then once this is what was crucial, Miriam, the first major debate that happened after Trump's historic win, that the first major debate where there were many, many critics, the response that the American people got was contempt from Vivek Ramaswamy, I would say, calling people mediocre, calling Americans mediocre, and being threatened with war because they don't agree with Elon Musk, who has the switch for the public square. So this is very, very concerning. And then we saw repercussions for that threat, by the way. There was one particular account who ratioed Elon. Next thing you know, and he wasn't associated with the groypers or bot accounts, as some claimed, and some conservatives came out and said, oh, it's just Russian bots. Excuse me. Owen Schroyer of InfoWars was affected. No. Is he a Russian bot? Yeah. I mean, this was just insulting. And one particular guy who ratioed Elon in his comments was punished as well. No association to any of these people. And so you look at the actions that followed when war was threatened. It was silencing political speech. That is a First Amendment argument, right?
Yeah.
So I have very serious concerns about this. And of course, then came the changes to the algorithm. Then came the announcement of, we're only really going to reward positivity, or there's too much negativity on this app, so we're going to change the algorithm. So what we're seeing here is a social engineering according to what the owner or owners or leaders of the app want, which again is another indication that this is not a free speech platform at all. It's what we want platform.
Well, and what you have so beautifully said on your X account is that, being negative, that is such an arbitrary word. I mean, who determines and defines what negative is? And
Right.
and again, this is the antithesis of exactly what he has said of his why of buying Twitter and creating X. And so I'd love to go to this first clip. So he had an interview with a journalist, literally, I think it was like 4 to 5 days ago, very recent. It's up on YouTube and you can see it. But I'd love for us to go to our first clip because he is talking about freedom of speech and how important that is.
You don't have a real democracy. It's just that's incredibly important to, I think, listen to the wisdom of the founders of the country and say, why did they make that the First Amendment? And they did it for a reason. It's because they came from places where there was massive censorship, and the penalties for speaking your mind would be fines, imprisonment, or death. And they're like, we really don't like that. We want that to not be the case in America. So then they put freedom of speech.
Yeah, it is so it's really gaslighting kind of because he talks like he talks this game, but then on the side, he's doing these other things, not really on the side, but with mainstream media not really talking about this. And like you so poignantly pointed out, a lot of conservatives aren't even talking about this. I know Clay Clark, I've talked about it. There are a handful of folks talking about it, but this is so concerning to me because he's created this image prior to President-elect Trump winning in November. And now, like you even mentioned, Vivek, I mean, they're kind of doing some things now that don't really align with their messaging early on.
And by the way, I think there's an indication that Trump's not so happy about what went down with Vivek. There was a directive from Susie Wiles. People are saying, where's Vivek? He's MIA since the H-1B debate. Well, maybe people missed it. There was a directive from Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, for all incoming members of the administration or those associated with to stop posting about contentious things prior to inauguration. And so whether that was damage control, potentially, or they genuinely weren't happy with the behavior of some of these people is yet to be determined or decided, I guess. But there is indication, Trump, for example, recommending that Vivek, if I'm not mistaken, takes up a senator role or runs for senator in Ohio.
Yeah.
And I saw someone on social media asking about what do people think about that. My response was, respectfully, I don't think that anyone who thinks Americans are mediocre belongs in any position of leadership, which is why I'm concerned about, Doge at the moment, the display of Vivek and Elon in regards to Americans who have genuine concerns about their country and maintaining, what does it mean to make America great again? Let's hash that out. All of a sudden, we feel like this isn't what we were talking about leading up to the election. So these are real people with real concerns. Miriam, I was taking calls one day on InfoWars. There was an older gentleman, pretty much almost in tears one day, because he was grateful that I was talking about this. Me, yes, I report on American issues all the time. I've been deeply involved in American politics for a very long time. It's my job, and I do it as fairly as I possibly can. But it's not actually my role to acknowledge these people. It's the people who promised them that they would, and I just see this, very, very disappointing behavior. And so I don't think that people who think that Americans are mediocre should be given positions of trust. I really don't. And there is another example. Just today, Miriam, there was a gamer who basically, there's this big feud, and a lot of conservatives may not know about this. There's this big feud going on right now with the gaming community and Elon Musk. He's a very avid gamer, and he often live streams his gaming and claims he's, I don't know what rank in the world in Diablo. Forgive me, I don't know exactly what rank it is, but it's quite, something to be proud of. And one of these gamers actually challenged him about him potentially artificially boosting his numbers when it comes to his gaming, whether it be to do with live streaming or his actual rank. I'm not clear on that situation. The point is that account had their blue check mark taken away. And Elon then proceeded to post private DMs between him and that individual publicly, with a reach of, hundreds of millions of people posting private conversations. That is
Wow.
really concerning retaliatory behavior over something that is really, in my opinion, very childish, So I have serious concerns about someone who retaliates in this way, threatens people, punishes them, having any sort of influence in the incoming administration.
It's concerning. I mean, it's beyond concerning. It's disturbing that he would respond in that way. And you're seeing it with even with the H-1B visa, which is a political thing. This is gaming, but it's still the principle of this person having this much power and this much influence and President-elect Trump's ear. It's disturbing to my core that it's happening. And then secondly, that so few people are talking about it. And if you were to go up on the street to an average conservative person, you said, "Hey, what do you think about Elon Musk?" What do you think they'd say?
I've been speaking with conservatives, in my daily life on the street, and they're not aware that this is happening. And the major problem is that, some of the largest conservative platforms or podcasts or voices aren't talking about it. And anyone who tries to talk about it on X, who's a smaller account, is actually, it gets suppressed, I think. And so it is very hard to raise awareness on this very serious issue. And just to tell you how serious it is, I want to give you some numbers. According to Grok itself, Jack Dorsey's tenure over 13 years, approximately 1.6 million accounts were suspended during that 13 years. Elon Musk's tenure in the first half of 2024, 5.3 million accounts were suspended. So we are talking around 4 times the amount in 13 years versus 6 months.
Wow.
This is a serious problem. And I want to say this, Miriam. Donald Trump promised to take down the censorship industrial complex. He actually released a plan on how he was going to do that. And I was so excited about this at the time, and I still am, by the way, because he promised, especially this one thing, which was to attack mis and disinformation and censorship being done under the guise of mis and disinformation. What I think that conservatives and Trump supporting people and the left, by the way, need to do is hold Donald Trump account to that. And that's a good thing, by the way. If people make us promises, especially as conservatives, we should have those values. If someone makes a promise, we should hold them to their word, and also be concerned if they don't keep their word. That is a conservative value. And so when he said this, I would argue that one of the biggest platforms right now that is affecting conservatives. I'm not saying that X is worse than YouTube, although I haven't pulled up YouTube's suspension numbers, for 2024. I don't know. But I am saying that X is the platform that conservatives mostly depend on, and they are being punished quite heavily on there right now as we speak with very arbitrary measures. In fact, X has recently updated their terms of service where there used to be, if you have a clear violation of their terms of service, they reserve the right to stop you from being monetized and so on and so forth. Now it's just if we want to. So, there is, we're seeing repeated patterns of platforms like YouTube, how the censorship started on there. The same sort of patterns happening on X right now, a platform that conservatives really depend on. And by the way, which was largely credited to getting Donald Trump elected. So accountability needs to start there. I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. And so I really hope that people that have Trump's ear can make him aware of this if he's not already, because within X's own policies, they say that sharing mis and disinformation it's part of their policies, right? So if that's within their policies and Trump promises to stop the censorship industrial complex under the guise of mis and disinformation, it's got to start on X.
Yeah, and it's such a crock because this is exactly what he said he was going to fight against and counter as it relates to Twitter. And now I don't know if that was all part of the agenda. I mean, obviously, we've all been hearing for quite a while that he wants to have an X app, like they have their app in China, where all payments go through there and things of that nature. So I don't know if it's kind of like, Hitler before he became, in power, had total power. Before, Rockefeller, we saw that the beginning stages of the United States. I mean, he said he was a Baptist, yet he was all for the New World Order and an anti-capitalist. And I mean, the devil, the name Satan means deceiver. I mean, he's the father of lies. And so these guys can't come out and say, here's my plan. I'm going to destroy you and your country. And so they have to like play the game. So I mean, maybe that's why Elon purchased X, and he acted like he was for free speech, but maybe he is not, because it doesn't really look like it. And that's why I think it's so important that we don't necessarily listen to what people say, but we watch what they do.
Yes, I can't speak to his intent because I don't know him, Miriam. So I'm not going to charge him with, with anything at this point other than what we know to be clear, which is that the censorship under Elon Musk on X is infinitely worse than it was under Jack Dorsey. There is clear arbitrary punishment happening of his critics. And whilst people can say, well, he doesn't have to pay people to criticize him, I agree, he doesn't. Okay. The point is that there is another element, which is that person is forever punished, like a social credit system. You've now got a stain on your account. You did something wrong, and therefore your reach is now limited. And it is a very serious problem to that person being able to interact with their audience, even if they're not monetized. I'm a person actually who is not monetized on X by choice because of the fact that they choose to, you have to allow Authentics to collect your biometric data to be monetized. Authentics has links to foreign intelligence agencies. So I think people should be very concerned about that, namely Israeli intelligence. So whichever intelligence agencies, by the way, if it was Russian intelligence or British intelligence or Chinese intelligence, I don't care. I am concerned that they're using a company that has links to foreign intelligence agencies or even domestic to verify identity. That should be red flags for everyone. And so, and that was my choice to not be monetized. I didn't trust the app. From the beginning, really. That is because when I raised to X that there were multiple impersonators on there who were engaging people in financial scams claiming to be me, they wouldn't stop those financial scammers unless I handed over my ID to this company. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. First, they said to me, email us from your official business domain. So I did. And then they said, well, it's not enough. We need your official government ID. And I said, shove it where the sun don't shine. You're not getting that. Not because people don't know who I am, but because I have a feeling you're up to no good. And then when I saw who they were using for this, for ID collection, I became very concerned, not only because this has links to an intelligence agency or foreign intelligence, but also because they were involved. Authentics was involved in a massive data breach not too long ago. And so why are you partnering with a company that has this stain on their ability to keep people's details private, to secure people's privacy? It's a very serious concern. So I'm going around this in a really long way, Miriam, to just basically say that I'm not going to judge the man's intent, but I have very, very serious concerns about some of X's actions, not just Musk, but also Linda Yaccarino, and the whole of X leadership. I mean, who's pushing these buttons? Who decides when someone criticizes the owner of the app, quickly suspend their account? How powerful? I don't think it's just Musk sitting there all day, every day, monitoring who says what about him. But is it his AI? Is that what X has been programmed to do? Has it been programmed to suspend people critical of Musk? Well, that's terrifying. So we have no transparency. By the way, if you recall early days, and I think a lot of people have forgotten, Musk promised transparency around the algorithm. We don't have it. It never came. We've just been told that it keeps getting tweaked. No one knows how or why. We're given loose terms like "don't be negative," and no one really understands how or why they're being punished. The clear pattern is if you criticize the owner, you will see consequences, and that is problematic.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that. I don't want to go down the intent trail, but I do sometimes you just wonder, people's motives. But that's what I do love about you is that you don't have to wonder because there's so much factual data proving otherwise. And that's why I wanted to show that clip from that interview because he says one thing and then does another. And I think that is incredibly what's the word I'm looking for? Consistent among deceivers in leadership, whether it was Hitler, whether, Rockefeller was incredibly deceptive. I mean, obviously, and Mao Zedong in China. I mean, nobody's going to come right out and give you their agenda because we're not idiots. We would all reject it. So, they have to be sly and deceptive, say what we want to hear. And then once they get their power, I mean, we look at Hitler. I mean, the parliament building that got supposedly set on fire. I mean, it was that same. He was very, just really telling people what they wanted to hear. He was going to help them. And then Reichstag got on fire, and that somebody started a fire, and then all of a sudden he assumed complete control of Germany. And so, I just think that's why it's so important not to just listen to the narrative and believe everything people say, but look at what they do. And that's why I'm so grateful for you, Maria Zeee at zeemedia.com, for exposing the truth and let people use their critical thinking skills that God gave them to determine if somebody is a good guy or not and if we should follow them.
Yes, and that's the key, right? Because I've seen, people like Steve Bannon, for example, have spoken up about this issue and Musk's response to everyday Americans who aren't actually racists or subtards, as he called them, but have real concerns about being replaced by foreign workers, being told that they're just not good enough for these positions. I mean, Jack Posobiec has been posting. Walmart is using, Panda Express is using H-1Bs. This visa program is not being used for the best and the brightest, as we're told in every instance. And by the way, I think that it's a great idea that America would import the best minds if that was what was only happening. But I think the O1 visas for that, if I'm
Yes,
not
that's
mistaken.
correct. Yes.
So the fact is that H-1B is being abused, and there is a very real problem in the tech industry. In fact, I've spoken again. I was taking calls on InfoWars when I was talking about all of these topics, and callers were calling in and saying, "I'm an engineer and I can't find work, and I have this many years experience." People that graduated at the top of their class being rejected over foreigners because they will work for less money. Then I heard one criticism of someone saying, "Oh, well, these foreigners, they will work 80 hours and, they're just harder workers." And it's like, okay, so what you want is Americans to be slaves? And because they're not willing to be slaves and work 80 hours a week, that means that you need to import foreigners? No, hang on. We're done with globalist profits being put above the people. That's what America First was about. It was about returning jobs to America. It was about making America great again. And so I'm seeing this gaslighting of the American people, who I love deeply. And believe that America is the leader of the West. It's actually the last one standing. And I'm seeing these people's concerns just being trashed on. And so when people like Steve Bannon and Jack Posobiec are speaking up about this, I'm very grateful for it. We need more voices to actually continue with this, because the reality is the H-1B debate was squashed on X by someone who didn't want to be criticized, that being the platform's owner. And then attention was diverted, either purposely or not purposely, to other matters in England. Now, I understand that the child grooming problem in England is very, very big. But again, America first means America first. And we just stop talking about this issue and just move on when people still have concerns about it. That is stifling political speech, and I think that it's very problematic. And Americans need to still have their voices heard, because at the end of the day, these are the people that got Trump elected, the people that supported him, campaigned for him, gave up years of their lives for him. People are still rotting in prison for him because of their loyalty to him. These people need to be number one priority, not the bottom line of the tech oligarchs. And by the way, I think that Joe Biden, for the first time in his life, decided that his last parting gift to America was going to be to be honest with the American people. As part of his farewell speech, he warned of a coming oligarchy and tech industrial complex seeking to take over America. I sincerely hope that Trump does not allow that to happen.
Yeah, I was shocked. I mean, that I call it a good riddance speech, but I was shocked that he said that. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, like that's the truest thing that he's ever said. It was really surprising to me to hear that.
Yeah, it was like a parting gift. I'm just going to be honest, one
Yeah.
time. One
Yeah.
time. I've lied to you and destroyed this country for years, but one time I'm going to tell you the truth.
Right. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
you know what, Miriam, that is very much also, I think, part of the occult practice of they're always going to tell you what they're going to do before they do it.
Mhm. That's right.
And I'm looking at all the elements as to why he would tell people that. Is it just because he's got dementia and he keeps accidentally spilling secrets, or
Right.
is this part of the ritual? I don't know, but he told the truth.
Yeah.
I will tell people that he told the truth. There is definitely a tech oligarchy that is looking to stifle the speech of Americans when it comes to political discourse, and a tech oligarchy that seeks to, create the world's biggest AI superpower in this country. And we keep being told that there's this arms race for AI and we all just need to get on board. And you know what? The problem isn't even Americans being replaced by H-1B workers. It's Americans being replaced by AI. This is the same in
Oh,
every country.
absolutely. And Google and IBM, I mean, their numbers have just been for unemployment have just been skyrocketing, and they're all projected in the first quarter of 25 to have even higher numbers. So, I mean, that's what I always say. It's not necessarily about the H-1B visa, although it is. But I mean, it's so much more. I mean, it's the whole principle of the matter. I mean, why do we even have the First Amendment? Obviously, they made it number one because that's what our country needed to be free. And another thing that I think is incredibly important to highlight today, and that has really just upset me to the core, and I don't really feel like people are noticing, is this fake conversion of Zuckerberg. I'm watching this interview and I'm glad Joe Rogan interviewed him, but I am so, again, disturbed to the core that everybody is singing his praises and they're so glad that he's had this awakening, if you will, this conversion, if you will. And I'm like, I don't buy it for a split second.
Well, I think at the core of this quote unquote conversion, of course, is, there's two arguments, right? There's the argument of, oh, well, we need to move forward. We need to heal from the destruction of the Biden administration and pinning all the blame on the Biden administration. But here's the reality of the situation. Mark Zuckerberg is guilty of election interference by his own admission, right? He's admitted to pressure on about censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story. He's admitted to folding on pressure from the Biden administration to censor certain information around COVID as well, by the way. So just because you folded to censorship doesn't absolve you of the guilt of censorship. And when it comes to the 2020 election, that is actually election interference, and no amount of pushing the blame onto someone else absolves you of that. It is the equivalent of me, but mind you, Miriam, I find this to be one of the most insulting PR campaigns and rebrands in history. I'll be honest with
Yeah.
you, because there are people that lost their businesses because of Mark Zuckerberg's censorship. There are people that lost their entire accounts. I can talk about me being affected. I've been on a permanent ban of sorts since April of 2022, where my posts appear at the bottom of people's timelines, and that is because I repeatedly offended Meta. One of those offenses, by the way, and I clearly remember it, was posting about what the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab was saying about the Great Reset, and they took that down as quote unquote misinformation because apparently the Great Reset was a conspiracy theory, even though it was coming out of Klaus Schwab's own mouth. And
Well, he
so,
wrote a book
and
about it.
he
He
wrote a
wrote a
book
whole
about
book
it.
about it. Yeah.
Correct. And so since April of 2022, I've been affected. Now, that doesn't actually, my business model is that I rely on sponsors to be able to, and business partners to be able to keep doing what I do. I don't ask anyone to pay for my content. I rely on sponsors. Most independent media does. I can't market my sponsors. I can't give great businesses that are supporting freedom the attention that they deserve, because the promotion of those people appears at the bottom of people's timelines they never see. So there's actually so many different consequences. But the most egregious of them all is the amount of real injection injured victims. They're
Yes.
groups that were taken down by Zuckerberg. The people that were trying to get the help that they so desperately needed because Meta took their groups down. The people that were trying to warn about the dangers, the peer-reviewed studies that were coming out talking about some of the issues like myocarditis, even in the, pardon me, early days, they were being taken down as misinformation because of the now revealed over 40,000 fact-checking networks. And by the way, the fact checkers got so bad by the end of it that they even stopped citing unreliable sources like the CDC or WHO as to the reason of their fact check. I was starting to receive fact checks like, this is false because we said so. I'm not even kidding.
Oh
So
my gosh.
this is the quality of the fact-checking program that the mainstream media is in meltdown over, right? Because they're losing their monopoly, and that's clear. And so this person is actually guilty of violation of the First Amendment because he's guilty of election interference. He censored a story that impacted the 2020 election. That is a violation of the First Amendment. That is election interference. And watching him be embraced by the new administration is completely bizarre to me. Now, I will give them the benefit of the doubt that there may be a reason for this. Perhaps this will help the incoming administration in some way dismantle the deep state, if you will, or the bad actors within the government at the moment. Like, let's just say that may be the case. But I don't see a pardon of Mark Zuckerberg either legally or publicly as a viable option. This person is guilty of multiple crimes yet to be determined in a court. The problem is we're not even putting him in court. We're giving him the benefit of the doubt. We're giving him this rebrand, and he actually belongs under serious investigation and potentially prison. So I can't understand this at all. I can't understand that more people aren't outraged about this. And it really is indicative to me, Miriam, of the fact that there is a social engineering and manipulation happening on social media right now. I am concerned about the role of X in that. You know, those accounts that are celebrating this are clearly being amplified, whilst those who are being critical of this are not getting as many views. Why is that? Is it just because the general public feels like it's a great thing, or is it because they're being socially engineered and algorithmically manipulated to believe that most people feel like this? We don't have an answer to that.
Yeah, and that word algorithm is a little bit of a trigger word for me, simply because we've heard that word was used, or that concept was used to silence freedom of speech to affect this election. And now we're hearing Elon Musk use that word, that he's thinking about altering the algorithms to just make X more positive, because it's kind of negative, and we don't really need negativity. And when he used that word algorithm, I thought, oh my gosh, that is exactly what was happening before he even bought Twitter. And I just wanted to play this clip for you as well, Maria, because a lot of folks, you are an expert on the New World Order. You were studying this when you were just a little girl. Your dad, I remember you telling me how he educated you on this concept, where a lot of folks, including myself, are learning about this later in life. My dad was a pastor. I learned the Bible inside and out, memorized lots of verses as a child. I mean, that was our lane, that we kind of specialized in growing up. But when you told me that, and then you started sharing these concepts that really, when you put the pieces together, everything just starts making sense. And so I want to play this last clip and get your feedback, because again, I'm not trying to be, I don't even know if this is a word, ununifying. I know that sometimes when we talk about these things, it's disturbing to people, not just maybe the content, because it creates a little bit of cognitive dissonance, but they feel like you're like, oh, Maria, you're negative, or oh, Maria, you're sowing discord. We need to join together. I know you've heard that, by the way. We need to join together and just rally behind. And we do. We need to rally behind where we can. But shame on us shame on us if we're going to turn the other way and not look at the truth because it's too disturbing or because we're concerned that it's going to disrupt unity. So this last clip I want to play, I think folks don't realize Elon has thought a lot about this, and he knows, first of all, that AI can go awry. He's assuming that everything's going to go well, but he's point blank said, it could go awry. But he's really parroting a lot of things that we've heard from Yuval Noah Harari, whether it's folks are going to lose their jobs. So what are they going to do? They're going to play video games. I mean, that is exactly what Yuval Noah Harari has said. So I wanted to play this last clip and then get your 2 cents on it.
It's not even clear what money means at that point, or if there's any meaningful cap on the economy. I think at that point, assuming that things haven't gone awry, in the good AI scenario, I think we won't have universal basic income, we'll have universal high income.
Yeah, universal high income. And whenever I hear universal and income in the same sentence, I am completely concerned. And it's completely communist. And we know what happens when you have universal income and universal high income. What are your thoughts on that, Maria?
Well, if I may first address that point about not being unifying or whatever the case may be, and I do see a lot of that. I see a lot of that from some larger conservative accounts saying, "Oh, those being divisive, it's a leftist operation, or we can't let people divide us." And I think that is just completely antithetical to conservatism. We are people that have robust debate. We exchange ideas with no offense towards one another, and we do that because we are all interested in the best outcomes. And guess what? It happens a lot with conservatives because we are generally independent thinkers, and we are people that don't really follow the leader too well. We're generally our own leaders. And so this is why it happens. It's actually healthy, and it should happen more. And may the best idea win. To tell someone that even, suggesting something in order to have a debate is being disunifying is not what conservatism is about. And I think that if we become people that refuse to criticize our own and hold our own to account, including one another, then we are basically no better than the left. It's a tribalism that leads to bad outcomes. It's a tribalism, like I said earlier, that blinds you from potentially bad things that are coming down the pipeline. Like, for example, Elon Musk currently supporting, we spoke about this the last time that I was talking with you, the Kids Online Safety Act, which is a digital ID for adults online. It is a social credit system for adults online. It won't say that in the legislation, but that's what it is. And I can promise you that as an Australian who's just been debating it in Australia, right? So I know this for a fact. It is a Trojan horse. And so this concept of universal high income is obviously more palatable than a universal basic income, but it's still the same thing. It is, and I'll tell you what it is. We know that AI is about to take millions of jobs away from people. Most people are not going to have the time to reskill in time for the AI takeover, which is, by the way, lawyers, movie makers, music producers, music artists, architects, accountants. The extent to which I was just speaking with someone in the legal field yesterday, the extent to which AI has already penetrated the judiciary would make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And so when we're talking about all of the people that we will be devastated by this, you may be a small business owner and say, well, it's not going to affect my industry. Oh, yes, it will, because all the people who are now jobless because AI's replaced them, all the white collar workers, guess what? They can't afford to shop at your small business anymore. So the trickle down effects absolutely will affect everyone. And what the globalists have proposed, including the World Economic Forum, Elon Musk, and sadly RFK Jr. has discussed this as well, is a universal basic income. Elon's just calling it a high income. I guess that means we'll give people a little bit more digital currency for their good behavior. And this is, we're already seeing the shadows of this. I'm seeing people being trained for this on the X platform. We want positivity. We don't want negativity. If you're negative, you're going to have your blue check mark removed. You can't have subscribers. we spoke about Laura Loomer earlier. She still does not have the ability of her subscribers who chose to financially support her being able to give her that money. She hasn't been given that right back. That is the equivalent of debanking, because then your supporters can't support you to do your work if they choose to donate to you, for example. It's the same thing. And now they're talking about an X monetary system that's going to be introduced this year. I am telling people right now, do not do this. Do not sign up to a monetary system linked with a platform that is behaving in this manner. It is going to be bad for you. As someone who's been debanked for my words and my opinions and my work, I am telling you, it is a very uncomfortable process. It's one that would scare most people off. And don't put yourself in that position. Don't risk being penalized by this financial system. But I'm concerned as well about the power of the AI inside X. We've seen people, once that negativity debate came up, Miriam, people were asking X about their positivity scores or their social media scores. And one particular individual, the first one that I saw, Grok returned a response about his social credit score. And once he exposed that, the post went viral, and then all of a sudden, Grok stopped telling people about their social credit scores. Now,
Wow.
this is what I want to say. Whether it's a social media score or a social credit score, it's the same thing. It is still a number that is being assigned to you based on your behavior. This is China. This is what Elon Musk said he wants to turn X into, WeChat. You rightly articulated that before. People get locked out of WeChat in China for criticizing the government. They can't pay their rent. They can't pay their bills. They end up, in some cases with no work. It is very, very concerning. So whether we're calling it a credit score or a social media score, it's the same thing. We don't want a number assigned to us based on our behavior, and certainly not linked to any financial systems. I'm concerned about Grok as well, assessing people's intent. I know someone who did an experiment that they asked them, okay, based on my posts, what would my score be? Grok gave them a score. Then that person started posting positive things. Now, I know this person, so I know that this person was being sarcastic, saying, I love Musk and blah, 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 right? The scary part, Miriam, is that when that person then queried Grok as to their most recent posts, Grok said that it appears that she's being sarcastic. So Grok is now, X's AI is at the point of assessing people's intent, assessing their character. Is that later going to be used by other financial institutions? Is that data going to be given to financial institutions for this universal basic or high income system, like the AI World Society, which is a very censored topic on X, says it will, where they say you won't be penalized, you just won't be financially rewarded unless you're acting in a way that we want you to. It all seems all too similar to me. And as you rightly said, these are all statements we've heard from Yuval Noah Harari, Klaus Schwab. Why is it that we recognize danger, danger, danger when they say it, but not when someone on our side apparently says it? It is concerning to me.
Yeah, and that's the whole point I'm trying to make here is with these conversations that we have on a daily basis, we should be speaking the truth, period, no matter who it is. And the whole point of unity, I believe true unity occurs when truth is spoken. Other than that, you can't have real unity when any type of agreement or business, personal, whatever, if it's founded on lies. I mean, that is not real unity. And we look at the United States of America. We all have different local state governments. We have different policies, but yet we're called the United States of America. I mean, that right there should tell you. I mean, the whole founding of our country was based on dissidence to some degree. I mean, we agree, obviously, hopefully, on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but we have some general laws, constitution, things like that federally. But then we also locally, we can be different, and yet we all can still be united. And so that's why I think it's really important that we focus on that.
Miriam, you said something crucial there. You said we can't have unity if it's based on lies. But here's the thing: even if everything I'm saying right now is I'm thinking about it the wrong way, or I'm missing something here. We should be able to have that conversation, and may the best idea win. The fact that we're not allowed to have it without being penalized, which we're seeing a repeated pattern of, tells you that that is a dictatorship. And that is not what Americans signed up for. And so I think that, you know, even if someone is lying, for example, which I'm not, I'm being honest about what I see as the potential threats here, the real life things that are happening. But even if I'm lying, someone should be able to say to me, well, no, you're wrong. You're lying, or you're wrong because of X, Y, Z. And that should be there for everyone to see. And let's have our ideas out. But that, not even that's allowed to happen. And wherever there's censorship, it's an indication that it's hitting a sore spot, which is making my spidey senses go up, and it should make everyone's go up.
Well, it should. And on that note, I want to ask you, you know, when folks are hearing you say these things and seeing these clips of Elon Musk and just, you know, just taking the temperature here on these issues, this controlled speech, not saying let the best idea win. When we see that, what do you think would be the most effective way to combat that as a concerned American citizen?
Well, here's the major thing. Again, like I said at the outset, you know, some conservative platforms aren't even talking about this. Maybe they don't realize it's happening. If they don't realize it's happening, it's because it's actively being suppressed from them. Red flag. And then some maybe even, you know, running cover for the fact that this is happening. Another red flag. Like anything when it comes to this one world government takeover, if we don't acknowledge that these things are happening, we can't fix them. So continuing to remain in denial about it, feeling like, oh, it's all too divisive and whatever the case may be. Listen, if I'm wrong about all of this and it's proven that that these points are wrong and Elon's not actually doing this, even though we have a track record of him doing it, if I'm proven about it, that's fine. You haven't ruined anything. You've just had the chat and everyone's come to an agreement, right? So people shouldn't be afraid to face this, and I don't think they should allow themselves to be gaslit and being told that they're an enemy of the Trump administration if they're raising genuine concerns. Because if your concerns are genuine and you're coming from a place of good intent, then being told that that's not, your intentions aren't pure is actually concerning. You know what I mean? Why aren't we hearing each other out? So number one is recognizing this problem. Number two is raising more awareness to it, and be very wary of the X platform. I'm going to say that outright because I'm telling you, I've seen this pattern. I've experienced censorship on the app, and so it is there. And hopefully people can raise this to President Trump and he's actually going to do something about it. I am concerned about someone like Musk having an office in the White House. When we're seeing some of this behavior, I have serious concerns about this, but maybe Trump isn't aware that this is happening. Laura Loomer said that she was going to do her best to make the administration aware. Now we're hearing that a lot of people in the administration don't want her near them. That is problematic. Why are people being shunned? Again, not someone I fully agree with, but by the same token, does a lot of good work. Why are people being shunned for raising problems? I don't understand. And so Americans, I know that you're brave people. I know that you are people that resist tyranny at every cost. I'm giving you some clear red flags to be aware of. Please look into this more and talk to those around you and tell them we need to be wary about this, where it's going. We need to not have our finger on the pulse. Just because there was a victory in November doesn't mean everything's all roses now. We've got to fight, because even if everything Trump did was fantastic, there's still things that maybe people around him or those in Congress or the Senate or whatever the case may be are doing that aren't good. We can't just not be politically active anymore. This is the time that we've been activated. We have to stay on course.
And I just want to echo what you said. I mean, we do need to talk about it in our immediate circles on social media if folks are comfortable with that. I think that is a really, well, while they can anyway, right? But that is a great avenue to share truth, just factual information. But also, I think that we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the power of prayer. And the Bible says the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man or woman, it says man, but I say woman to myself when I read it, availeth much. And it's very powerful. And We think about how Jesus, how he combated the great deceiver. The king of deception is Satan himself, right? And he used the word of God. He said, Satan, it says in the Bible, do not put the Lord thy God to the test. I mean, he repeatedly spoke the word of God to Satan, and that's how he beat that deceiver, the king of deception, the father of lies. And that is exactly what we should be doing too, is following his example. But we can't speak the word if we don't know the word. And if we get so busy, even on social media, just learning what somebody said about this or that, and we don't read our Bible, we don't know what the word of God says, then how can we fight this? Because it's not a physical battle, it's a spiritual one. We all know that the Bible says that in Ephesians 6:12. We don't fight against flesh and blood, but against principalities. So I just want to add to that. That was phenomenal wisdom. And I want to add to it too. Let's focus on reading the word every day, reading the Bible, even if it's just for 5 minutes, and then praying and praying for this administration, praying for truth, that truth will be the light of truth will shine, and darkness will be exposed, that the true intentions of these people's hearts will be exposed, and that President-elect Trump will do the right thing and put the right people in place. So those are my 2 cents, ideas on that as well. And so, Maria, I just wanted to say thank you for your time. I know you're incredibly busy. I know you guest host on InfoWars a lot. Remind our folks how they can connect and follow you.
Yes, well, I do have an X account at ZEE_media, although I'm being told even by friends they can't find my account on there, so it is very shadow banned. So I recommend people subscribe to our Telegram. It's free, ZEE media, all one word, and also follow us on Rumble, ZEE media, all one word. And as always, you can find our content on our website, zeemedia.com.
That's so great. Follow her today. I learned so much from Maria, and zmedia.com has everything there. All those sites, the socials, and all her interviews are on there. Just really, really provocative information that will educate you so you can educate those around you. So thank you so much. And I thank you so much for being here, and have a great day.
Appreciate you. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you to your audience.
And in that vein, I want you all to call me and to start talking about purchasing some gold and silver. In fact, just buy some silver. It's only about $20 to $30 an ounce, because what Maria is talking about, social ID, digital ID, CBDC, central bank digital currency, people, it is happening. It is happening. And so call me today. Let's get you just buying even a couple ounces of silver today, because hard assets, that is the name of the game. That is how you're going to win. And that's how you're going to protect your children and your financial legacy. So call me today and let's get you going. It's so easy. They ship directly to your house, and it's just a no brainer. So call the number on your screen, 1-833-21-FREED, FREED. Give me a call and let's talk about getting you some gold and silver today.